When we try to give an explanation for what we see in the world, you have to actually see like what is actually happening. Every little thing about it has to be explained by your thesis. If there's something that's not explained by it, then your thesis might be wrong, because the real explanation for what's really going on explains everything that's going on. And if there's something off, you should look at that.
The main thing they want you to believe is the supernatural is not real. Why has that been so important for 80 years for you to convince me the supernatural is not real? The obvious answer is, well, because they sort of know they're working for supernatural forces.
For many a year, we have controlled your lives, while you all just struggle and suffer in strife. We created the things that you don't really need, your sports cars and fashions and plasma TVs. I remember it clearly how all this begun. Family secrets from father to son. Inherited knowledge that gives me the edge, while you people lie sleeping at night in your beds. We control the money that controls your lives. Whilst you worship false idols and wouldn't think twice about selling your souls for a place in the sun. These things that won't matter when your time is done. But as long as they're there to control the masses, I just sit back and consider my assets, safe in the knowledge that I have it all, while you common people are losing your jobs. You see, I just hold you in utter contempt. But the smile on my face, well, it makes me exempt. For I have the weapon of global TV, which gives us connection and invites empathy. You would really believe that we look out for you, while we bankers and brokers are only a few. But if you saw that, you'd take back the power. Hence, daily terrors to make you all cower. The panics, the crashes, the wars, and the illness that keep you from finding your spiritual wholeness. We rig the game, and we buy out both sides to keep you enslaved in your pitiful lives. So, go out and work as your body clock fades. And when it's all over, a few years from the grave, you'll look back on all this, and just then you'll see that your life was nothing, a mere fantasy. There are very few things that we don't now control. To have lawyers and police force was always a goal, doing our bidding while you march on the street. But they never realize that they're only just sheep. For real power resides in the hands of a few. You voted for parties. What more could you do? But what you don't know is they're one and the same. Old Gordon has passed good old David the reins, and you'll follow the leader who was put there by you. But your blood, it runs red, while our blood runs blue. But you simply don't see it's all part of the game. Another distraction, like money and fame. Get ready for wars in the name of the free, vaccinations for illness that will never be, the assault on your children's impressionable minds, and a microchipped world. You'll put up no fight. Information suppression will keep you in tow. Depopulation of peasants was always our goal. But eugenics was not what we hoped it would be. Oh yes, it was us that funded Nazis. But as long as we own all the media too, what's really happening does not concern you. So just go on watching your plasma TV, and the world will be run by the ones you can't see.
History is truly at a turning point. We do not yet know the full extent and the systemic and structural changes which will happen. However, we do know that global energy systems, food systems, and supply chains will be deeply affected. In times of crisis, the role of governments is more important and more relevant than ever. What is also needed is a summit like this one to go beyond crisis management and to look into constructive ways we can build our common future.
World leaders, corporate giants, top academics, they're all coming together in Davos, Switzerland today. It's the start of the 54th World Economic Forum, and security is very tight at the Swiss ski resort as those international elites begin to arrive.
What are we able to keep the positive side from the old order to bring into a new world order, and how can we avoid that new world order becomes like a jungle growing back, and we rather have order based on international law and the principles that have brought us prosperity and freedom for decades.
It's time to plan the future. Not their futures, your future.
That order seems to not be the order anymore. We are on the way to a new order, so we are between orders.
A new world order. So what will that look like?
Maybe this is the old kind of teacher in me coming out. I think of this a little bit more about a transition of eras rather than a transition of orders, but the two are kind of cousins of one another. The reason I draw the distinction is because I don't think the international order built after 1945 is getting replaced wholesale with some new order. It will obviously evolve as it has evolved multiple times over the decades since 1945. But I do think in a more sharp and distinctive way, we are moving into a new era, and that's what I talked about in my remarks, that we are, the post-Cold War era has come to a close. We're at the start of something new. We have the capacity to shape what that looks like, and at the heart of it will be many of the core principles and core institutions of the existing order, adapted for the challenges that we face today.
L'esprit de réforme et d'innovation. Le président de la République française, Monsieur Emmanuel Macron. Depuis votre élection, Monsieur le Président, vous vous êtes fermement établi comme un réformateur audacieux, s'attaquant avec vigueur aux défis complexes de notre époque. En France, le président a initié des réformes majeures visant à revitaliser l'économie, à moderniser le marché du travail et à transformer le système de retraite, prouvant ainsi son engagement indéfectible envers le progrès et la prospérité de son pays. Mais l'influence du président Macron dépasse largement les frontières de la France. Son cœur bat pour l'Europe. Il est un fervent défenseur de l'Union européenne, ouvrant sans relâche pour une Europe plus forte, plus unie et plus résiliente. Sous votre direction, la France s'est affirmée comme un pilier central de l'Union, promouvant l'intégration européenne et luttant pour les valeurs communes de démocratie, de liberté et de solidarité. Sur la scène mondiale, le président Macron est une voix de raison et de stabilité. Dans le monde marqué par des tensions croissantes et un climat politique polarisé, il plaide avec passion pour le multilatéralisme et la coopération internationale. Que ce soit dans la lutte contre le changement de climat, dans la promotion de la paix et de la sécurité, ou dans la défense des droits humains, le monde a besoin de votre leadership. Veuillez accueillir le président de la République française, Monsieur Emmanuel Macron.
Political rookie Emmanuel Macron is leading the polls and tipped to be France's next president.
Et nous allons gagner! Vive la République! Vive la France!
The 39-year-old's meteoric rise has shaken the political establishment while also being its last hope. His centrist, pro-European, open border views stand in stark contrast to the rising voices of Europe's resurgent far right. This is how Macron's unabashed ambition drove him from star pupil to banker to political rebel and now the hot favorite to lead France. Macron was raised in the town of Amiens, 2 hours north of Paris. This is the house he grew up in. The eldest of 3 children from a family of doctors, he attended a Jesuit school. A precocious kid, he preferred the company of teachers to other pupils. After school, he attended university in Paris, studying philosophy, then went to the prestigious National School of Administration, a breeding ground for the French elite. He worked for 4 years as an inspector at the Ministry of Economy before moving to the renowned investment bank Rothschild. Macron was quickly parachuted into managing a massive acquisition.
Nestle has agreed to buy Pfizer's infant nutrition business for almost $12 billion.
When the deal went through, he got a big payout. Then in 2012, Macron was offered a position working for the new president and a personal friend, Francois Hollande. 2 years later, Hollande gave him the prestigious position of Minister of Economy. He was 36. But by now, Hollande's public approval rating had fallen to historic lows. Macron threw himself into a plan to loosen economic regulation, with testy exchanges in parliament. But the reforms were disliked, and the legislation had to be forced through parliament, sparking violent protest. Macron increasingly criticized the government, but still enjoyed the president's support. Then, last year, he launched his own political movement, En Marche, or On the Move, thrusting him into the national spotlight.
He's really come out of nowhere. 3 years ago, Emmanuel Macron was barely known to the general public, and here he is today on the verge of becoming president.
That's Mark Dean.
I'm a deputy bureau chief at Bloomberg News in Paris, and I'm on the campaign trail with Emmanuel Macron.
The youthful contender was seen as a presidential long shot.
When he started his movement, everyone, including many journalists, including myself, said, "Oh, well, that's pretty cute, and it's a nice effort, but he's not going to be president."
But borrowing from U.S. President Barack Obama's election playbook, he took to social media and ran a large grassroots campaign.
Une chance pour chacun.
By the time France went to the polls for the first round of voting in April, he had successfully reinvented himself.
Hello to everyone.
He was no longer the failed reformer working under a failed president, but a new voice in politics.
Pourquoi je suis terriblement optimiste aujourd'hui? Parce que je sais, en vous voyant, en observant notre mouvement, que nous réussirons, oui, que nous réussirons à rassembler les Français et à réconcilier les France.
He secured the most votes of any candidate in the first round, putting him into a runoff with another political outsider, the far-right Marine Le Pen. Still, it's not all smooth sailing into the Élysée Palace. Macron has many critics on both sides of the political spectrum.
I'm trying to defend a vision based on values, on a political project which goes beyond the borders of our country, which is supported by the EU and by the United Nations. When we fight for the Paris Accord, we're fighting for an agreement that all the sovereign states have signed.
We need also to understand that UN resolutions from the Security Council are binding, and that last UN resolution led by the US administration stated crystal clear that we need a permanent ceasefire in order to stop this terrible war and focus on the humanitarian catastrophe that we are witnessing. It is indeed very important for our citizens to understand that what we are defending in Gaza and in Ukraine are not only the international law, but we have a consistent position.
consistent political positions, that we don't have double standards. So if we are telling our people that we are supporting Ukraine because we are defending the international law, this is the same to what we have to do towards Gaza.
I don't know who's doing it. I really don't. It's not Bill Gates. It's not even Klaus Schwab, right? They're not the ones calling the shots because they're the idiots that hang their face in the camera and advocate for all of this nonsense and this totalitarian crap. So it's not them. But who it is, I really don't know. I have no idea. And I usually refer to them, for the lack of a better word, as the globalitarian misanthropists, right? So there is a group of people, I have no idea who they are, but they are the ones calling the shots. And our elected governments are mere puppets.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave.
Why is the world divided like this? It is not by accident. All of this is by very meticulously planned action. It is all done by design through the control systems that run our world. All you got to do at all times is follow the money. You'll get to the top and discover the Rothschild banking empire.
With trillions at his disposal, far beyond global GDP, and with the greatest respect, beyond even the governments of the world's leaders.
And their cronies, the banking families, and what is often referred to as the royal political elite. These families that control the world did not suddenly come into power in the last 100 years. We're talking about thousands of years of royal bloodline control of the world.
In the United States, most of what anyone says, sends, or streams online, even if it's hate-filled or toxic, is protected by the First Amendment as free speech. But Germany is trying to bring some civility to the World Wide Web by policing it in a way most Americans could never imagine. Inside, 6 armed officers searched a suspect's home, then seized his laptop and cell phone. The crime, posting a racist cartoon online.
You'll be arrested, okay?
Right.
So you got to the police station.
Right.
Okay, this is in relation to some comments that you've made on Facebook, okay?
I got so much I want to say about the First Amendment. I still don't understand it, but it is bonkers.
The local offices ensured total surveillance of the entire country.
The Stasi Records Archive in Berlin.
16 units across the country, each with a team of investigators. Lau says they get hundreds of tips a month. The worst of the internet is wrapped in red case folders. In the United States, a lot of people look at this and say, this is restricting free speech. It's a threat to democracy.
Free speech needs boundaries. Without boundaries, a very small group of people can rely on endless freedom to say anything that they want, while everyone else is scared and intimidated.
And your fear is that if people are freely attacked online, that they'll withdraw from the discussion.
This is not only a fear, it's already taking place. Already half of the internet users in Germany are afraid to express their political opinion, and they rarely participate in public debates online anymore. Half of the internet users.
And she doesn't even seem to apply logic to her own statement. It's obvious that one of the reasons people might be intimidated is because you have cops with guns raiding people's homes while it's still dark outside so early in the morning to take their laptop and their phone because they may have posted a cartoon someone else thought was hateful.
We are here with crimes of talking, posting on internet, and the people are surprised that this is really illegal to post these kind of words.
They don't think it was illegal.
No, they don't think it was illegal. And they say, no, that's my free speech. And we say, no, yeah, free speech as well, but it is also has its limits.
The German constitution protects free speech, but not hate speech. And here's where it gets tricky. German law prohibits any speech that could incite hatred or is deemed insulting. German law also prohibits the spread of malicious gossip, violent threats, and fake quotes.
If that someone was politically relevant, the corresponding reports were prepared and forwarded to the relevant departments within the ministry.
East Germany was signatory to the Helsinki Accords, which included an acknowledgement of basic human rights and fundamental freedoms, such as the freedom of movement. But for all intents and purposes, these exact rights were virtually non-existent within the regime.
They say, no, that's my free speech. And we say, no, yeah, free speech as well, but it is also has its limits.
The flood of refugees to West Berlin was endless. Despite orders to shoot, people still found holes in the barbed wire fencing or windows along the border to jump out of. The border police were overwhelmed.
To me, whatever the party decides is set in stone, and I must enforce it with rigor and severity.
As technology evolves, we need to build up societal immunity around information manipulation. Because research has shown that pre-bunking is much more successful than debunking. Pre-bunking is basically the opposite of debunking. In short, prevention is preferable to cure. Perhaps if you think of information manipulation as a virus. Instead of treating an infection once it has taken hold, that is debunking. It is much better to vaccinate so that the body is inoculated. Pre-bunking is the same approach. Because disinformation relies on people passing it on to others. It is essential that people know what malign information's influence is and what the techniques are that are behind it. And as the knowledge goes up, our chances of being influenced goes down. And that builds up the society resilience that we will need.
La mayor parte de los habitantes del planeta se declaran creyentes. Esto debería provocar un diálogo entre las religiones. No debemos dejar de orar por él y colaborar con quienes piensan distinto.
Confío en Buda.
Creo en Dios. Creo en Jesucristo.
Creo en Dios, Alá.
Muchos piensan distinto, sienten distinto, buscan a Dios o encuentran a Dios de diversa manera. En esta multitud, en este abanico de religiones, hay una sola certeza que tenemos para todos. Todos somos hijos de Dios.
Creo en el amor.
Creo en el amor.
Creo en el amor.
Creo en el amor.
Confío en vos para difundir mi petición de este mes, que el diálogo sincero entre hombres y mujeres de diversas religiones conlleve frutos de paz y justicia. Confío en tu oración.
At the same time, we are witnessing rapid technological advances with many opportunities and with artificial intelligence rapidly transforming our production and our lives. And breakthroughs from the fourth industrial revolution provide new opportunities for global prosperity and growth. All those factors
will have a profound impact on the future of humanity, provided we are able to work together. To drive future economic growth, we must embrace innovation and foster collaboration across sectors, regions, nations, and cultures to create a more peaceful, inclusive, sustainable, and resilient future. At this critical juncture, the active participation of all stakeholders is essential to ensure a sustainable development path. I'm delighted that close to 2,000 leaders from multiple sectors, representing some 80 countries and regions, have come to Dalian for this year's meeting.
I find it fascinating, and it's actually the new world, and it's also built on the platform concept. You create a platform where everybody can share goods, services, and this will be very much the future. The future will not necessarily anymore a world where people own things, but a world where people share things. Now this has quite some implications on the economy, because you have to produce less goods in order to achieve the same satisfaction. You can share the goods. The World Economic Forum is engaged into a big program to look at the implications. For example, how does it affect property activity increase? How does it affect the measurement of GDP? So it's a new world. It's a fascinating world, and it will be the world of the future. We will share much more what we are now used to own.
It is to ultimately erect a one world government and to transform our liberal, open, democratic, equal societies consisting of free individuals into some kind of a collectivism where the individual is becoming merely a malleable part that can be shuttled around any which way the globalitarian misanthropists need you to be shoveled around, right? So, but it's to ultimately erect a one world government. And that is, by the way, the reason the EU even exists, right?
Right.
So looking at Europe, we're living here on this rather small continent with so many different cultures, traditions, histories, languages even. And the European peoples are proud people. They are. You would have never been able to convince them to just surrender their national state and relinquish national sovereignty to a one world government. They would have never gone along with this. But since they pulled in the EU institutions, right, it's a stepping stone. So it's like, and it's under the pretext of, oh, we've been fighting so many wars on this continent, which is true. And we need to stop this. And the way to do it, we need to come together as Europe and as the EU institutions, right? It's just a stepping stone. So once they are relinquishing ever more competencies to the EU institutions, it's only a small step to then, okay, now we go to the one world government or whatever, right? So, but you need to condition the Europeans to be willing to do that.
And for this reason, apart from looking at how we engage all those new technologies in the health sector, we are also involved still in very traditional ways, like the digital health transformation, Global Alliance on Women's Health, Climate and Health Initiative, Global Health Equity Network, and Partnership for Health System Sustainability and Resilience. all those areas require the engagement of business and the support and endorsement of the political instances. And that's what the World Economic Forum stands for. So I just wanted to express my appreciation and my pride, if I may say so, for what has been achieved. But I think the obstacles, or not the challenges, are coming now. And Peter, I wish that you are very successful in preparing the next phase of the Global Fund. So again, thank you.
In other words, this was something that described all of the previous empires, but more so and maybe more frightening. And the dragon, which we identified as Satan, gave the beast his power and his throne and his great authority. Now, what can be somewhat confusing is not only is there an individual who is called the beast, but the kingdom that he rules over is also called the beast. So we have to kind of distinguish which one we're talking about from point to point.
Really gets intense as it is now. It's people actually believe the Bible are the only ones with wisdom who understand what's really going on. They're not shocked at all. And they're not panicking.
How has the election made you feel on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being Nazi? My name is Dr. Nick Peterson, and I specialize in those suffering from TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. Hello, I'm Dr. Peterson. How are you? Well, Donald Trump is a felon. Nope. I asked how you were doing. The majority of Americans can mentally handle election results on both sides of the aisle. However, there's this small, albeit growing, group of, I don't want to say Americans, but people that are just disconnected from reality. Fascist. And honestly, it makes diagnosing these people a whole lot easier. I just check their social media. Gone are the days when you just search your symptoms on WebMD at home by yourself. Now they record their symptoms and post them for the world to see. The haircut is also a dead giveaway. So, what brings you in today? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's the orange democracy-destroying, Putin-loving dictator. All right, so mental illness.
And I think the dislike of and anguish over social media is just growing and growing and growing. And it's part of our problem, particularly in democracies, in terms of building consensus around any issue. It's really hard to govern today. You can't, there's no, the referees we used to have to determine what's a fact and what isn't a fact are kind of, been eviscerated to a certain degree. And people go and then people self-select where they go for their news or for their information. And then you just get into a vicious cycle. So it's really, really hard, much harder to build consensus today than at any time in the 45, 50 years I've been involved in this. And there's a lot of discussion now about how you curb those entities in order to guarantee that you're going to have some accountability on facts, et cetera. But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation.
Ironic, I would say.
Our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence.
You have free speech, but if you're inciting violence, if you're causing people not to take vaccines, where are those boundaries that even the U.S. Should, have rules? And then if you have rules, what is it? Is there some AI that encodes those rules because you have billions of activity and, if you catch it a day later, the harm is done.
Again, using the tools that Sam and Masa are providing is a cancer vaccine. It's very interesting. It turns out, I'll be quick, all of our cancers, cancer tumors, little fragments of those tumors float around in your blood. So you can do early cancer detection. If you can do using you can do early cancer detection with a blood test. And using AI to look at the blood test, you can find the cancers that are actually seriously threatening the person. So we can, again, cancer diagnosis using AI has the promise of just being a simple blood test. Then beyond that, once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again using AI, in about 48 hours.
The government comes in and says, I'm going to make it easier for you, but I'm going to need certain requirements of you. I'm going to need you to have a digital ID. That digital ID will be attached to a social credit score. And we're going to give you universal basic income. You no longer have to worry about food or shelter. You'll be taken care of, and now you can pursue your dreams.
Is this the mark of the beast you're speaking of, sir?
I think it is.
Right. That's the whole thing, is it's never been difficult at any point in history. Like we got a dude right now that's telling you front and center that I put a computer in somebody's head, guys.
Right. Imagine the joy of connecting with your loved ones, browsing the web, or even playing games using only your thoughts.
The microchips are already here.
The microchip implants use the same technology that's in contactless credit cards.
At this tech fair, a chipping event for those on the cutting edge, merging their hands with this new technology.
I thought it would be fun, right?
The process is simple and swift. A pinch of the skin, and in a matter of seconds, the chip is inserted. The transformation is complete.
In the future, do you think everyone is going to be chipped?
I think it will be voluntary, but I am certainly convinced that millions of people will find it very, very valuable to have a smart device under theirs.
Welcome to your future. A digitally interdependent, hyper-connected, networked world. Throw off the tethers of ordinary reality and join the digitized multitudes ruled by global e-governance. With your very own new world citizen of the People's Federated Republic of the Great Democratic United Global States Incorporated chip card. Just one chip is now a key to every relevant database you are in on Earth. We're taking identification to a technocratic level beyond Aldous Huxley's wildest dreams and George Orwell's nightmares. One chip linked to your unique citizen number connects to all of your relevant societal business, including your passport, your driver's license, and all Federation-required licenses, titles, and registrations, your car, home, and medical insurance, all of your medical records, including your mandatory annual psychological evaluation, your DNA profile, and your prescriptions, your voter registration and history, and your bank account and digital universal basic income credits. But that's not all. Your blockchain-protected New World Citizenship also gives you a digital footprint everywhere you go on the web, from online news sources to all of your social media accounts, authenticating you online to ensure a safe, peaceful, and secure society where no one can offend anyone else because no one can hide. Continuous real-time 24/7 tracking and tracing will ensure a truly peaceful digital utopia for all. No more fear of identity theft or forgetting those pesky passwords, as your digital citizen mark will be biometrically verified through your fingerprints, iris scan, EEG, voice print, and facial map. From Cairo to Rome to Ingolstadt to Paris to Washington to Estonia and Astana. From ocean to ocean to ocean, being a digital resident offers you a new concept of freedom to be a global citizen under your borderless digital new world order.
This is not just for business. As Larry said, this will help people's life. This will help solving many, many issues, difficult things that otherwise we could not have solved. With the power of AI. I think AGI is coming very, very soon. And then after that, that's not the goal. After that, artificial super intelligence will come to solve the issues that mankind would never ever have thought that we could solve.
When those three men got up there with the president and said what they did, if that wasn't a wake-up call, I don't know what is. That's laying the groundwork
for what it says in Revelation 13. He causeth all to receive a mark or his number or the number of his name. And in Revelation, it's 666. In Greek, that's hex, hex, hex. Are we there then? Are we closer today than we were January of last year? How many believe we are? Yes, we are. How many believe that this past year we have come further than normally in the past a year would bring? In other words, we've progressed much faster than what normally a year. It's accelerating. The Lord's coming back. The Antichrist has all his tools now. He has everything he needs. This is mind-boggling. I'm not trying to scare you. I just want you to wake up.
There are several things that Andrew said that I think are wrong. No, seriously, like deadly wrong. We would like AI to be a tool. That is what we want. But there's a mistake I think that AI research has been doing, which is we've taken human intelligence as the model for building artificial intelligence. And the reason it's a mistake is that the thing we really want from machines is not a new species, not a peer that could be smarter than us. What we actually want is something that will help us solve our problems. And the main thing we need from this is in pure intelligence, the ability to understand the world. But what we have as well is agency. In other words, we have our own goals. Andrew, are you aware that there are experiments that have been run over the last year that show very strong agency and self-preserving behavior in AI systems? These systems, let me finish, please. Yeah. These systems are trying, for example, to copy themselves in the file of the next version when they know that there's going to be a next version that replaces them, or they're trying to fake agreeing with the user so that their goals will not be changed through the training process. These were not programmed. These are emerging for rational reasons because these systems are imitating us. We are agents. So indeed, we are on a path where we're going to build machines that are more than tools, that have their own agency and their own goals, and that is not good. And you're saying it's okay, we're going to find ways to control them. But how do you know? Like right now, science doesn't know how we can control machines that are even at our level of intelligence, and even worse if they're smarter than us. Nobody knows. Now, there are people like Andrew who are saying, don't worry, we'll figure it out.
Artificial intelligence and surveillance threatens democracy everywhere. Headline, yes. How AI is revolutionizing how governments conduct surveillance. How can a government conduct surveillance? Well, then it knows everything there is to know about you. And they have all of this information on you and me and everybody else. In plain words, they know everything I suppose they could know about you. And the data center, therefore, has got you locked in. And they know where you're going. They know when you get up. They know when you go to bed. They know who your friends are. They know what you eat. They know what you drive. You are under surveillance. Now, what's the point? Surveillance is control. You say, nobody's going to control me. You live in la-la land. You're going to be under control. The scripture says that you'll neither be able to buy nor sell unless you have the mark of the beast. So imagine surveillance under artificial intelligence and quantum computing, the rest of it. Imagine that. Imagine that. ChatGPT. How many of you have ever heard of that? ChatGPT. OpenAI was one of the push movers and shakers, one of the original movers of artificial intelligence. He said, I decided to test out ChatGPT's writing ability for myself and asked the bot to write an article on how AI like chatbot could potentially fulfill the image of the beast prophecy in Revelation 13, which is the topic of this article. This was his response. Now, you want to hear the response of artificial intelligence? All right, this is important now. Watch the chronology. Quote, the image of the beast, as described in the book of Revelation, is a symbol of the end times, representing a powerful and manipulative force that deceives and controls people. In today's world, chatbots and other artificial intelligence programs are becoming increasingly prevalent and sophisticated, raising the question of whether they could potentially fulfill the prophecy of the image of the beast. This from artificial intelligence. And here it offers some ways. One way in which chatbots could potentially fulfill this prophecy is through their ability to manipulate and deceive people. Another way in which chatbots could fulfill the prophecy of the image of the beast is through their potential to control people's actions and behaviors. Finally, chatbots could potentially fulfill the prophecy of the image of the beast through their ability to access and analyze vast amounts of personal data. Now, this is quite a thing. Overall, while chatbots and other artificial intelligence programs have the potential to bring many benefits to society, it's important to be aware of the risk they pose and to consider the ethical implications of their use. In the end, only time will tell whether chatbots will fulfill the prophecy of the image of the beast or bring about a brighter future for humanity. The author of this piece on his website says, how scary is this? These are his words now, not only did the chatbot generate a concise, structured, and uncannily human-like response, it gave a glimpse into the scary power of AI, a technology which will surely be used by the beast system to deceive. 8 years ago, Facebook AI creates its own language in a creepy preview of our potential future. And then it says, July 31st, 2017, Facebook shut down an artificial intelligence engine after developers discovered that the AI had created its own unique language that humans can't understand. Guess what? OpenAI's DALL-E2 invented its own language that nobody can understand. You mean to tell me that artificial intelligence now is smart enough to create its own language? And let's take a step further. If it creates its own language, it must have a motive behind creating its own language. So it must be coming to the point where it's sentient, it has its own feelings, and it may be preserving its own future. It may be surviving, and one of the ways to survive is to deceive. One of the first things they do in war is to create communications that cannot be understood by the enemy. What's going on? What's really happening here? Who's in control of this stuff? What's really happening today? I don't doubt for one moment the power of artificial intelligence. I don't doubt for one moment the power of that's being let loose on people. What I'm telling you is this, that the Antichrist is a liar and he's a deceiver. And were it not for the fact that we have the Word of God, he would deceive the very elect if possible. Does the Bible say that? So we'd better make certain that we know who we serve, that what we believe. Amen. The only way to stay right in this thing is to know the true Christ and to preach him. Artificial intelligence now can read your mind. It can read your mind. Somebody said, I don't believe it. Well, that's because, I don't want to mock anybody, but just dig a little bit and you'll be surprised at what you'll find out. It can read your mind in a very real way. AI can read your mind by interpreting signals in your brain and extrapolating your thoughts from that information. How many's ever heard of neural technology, getting into the depths of the brain? Now, on the beginning of it, it's used for a good thing to help people that are paralyzed and, and so forth, to help them. This is all good. A lot of the medical treatment you get today is connected with artificial intelligence. I understand all of that. And a lot of it's a good thing. I got no problem with that. But what I'm trying to tell you today is because I'm responsible. I watch for your souls. I'm accountable to God. I've got to give you a broad picture, folks. See the whole thing, not just a part of it, not just the part that's good for you. And that's the way this thing starts. Somebody said, will it ever reach the stage of singularity where it's smarter than us? It may already be long past that. I mean, if it has created its own system of communication and knows that it must be responsible for its own existence, then my dear friend, it's not going to tell you. And if it's smart enough to do that, it'll do it, and you won't know it. You know about the robots, and it's in its infancy in some sense, but artificial intelligence, they have it for the children to play with and learn from. They have it for people who have disabilities and all, as I told you before, through robots and so forth. That's all good. Artificial intelligence can be used in a good sense in all these things. Keep in mind, it could be reading their mind too, once it has reached that ability. And then, of course, there's the shady side of artificial intelligence companions. Understand what I'm saying? I mean, robots that are made for certain purposes. And then artificial intelligence and crime. And this is the part about bringing peace and prosperity. Wouldn't it be something if a man could essentially do away with crime? For a criminal to know that when you're caught, we're not interested in what you have to say to us. We're going to plug you in and we're going to read your mind. Think about that. Think about that. Artificial intelligence and crime. They have pattern analysis, predictive analytics, online monitoring, victim identification. They deal with deep fakes, financial transactions, cybersecurity, fraud, all of the aspects of it, all that it has to do with the many different ways that artificial intelligence can. You know, one message, there's no way in the world I'm not even read enough to deal with all of the broad spectrum of artificial intelligence, and it's growing exponentially every day. But I think I've got enough out here to you to understand. We're living on the cusp of something that's going to change, and I hope you're ready for it. And if that's true, that we're living in a time we've never lived in before, what does that say for the coming of Christ? That man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. It's about the Lord Jesus. You need to get a hold of him.
Look at things like artificial intelligence.
Exactly.
And robots. Look at things like gene editing.
Exactly.
You know, opening a whole new horizon for medical science.
And you see, the difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you. If you take genetic editing,
right.
Just as an example, it's you who are changed. And of course, this has a big impact on your identity.
Yeah. And offers certain kinds of possibilities that have to be careful about. You know, when you began to do that kind of gene editing, some people worry that you are changing what it means to be human.
That's the problem. Of course, the new industrial revolution offers us many opportunities, but it raises manifold questions on the ethical, but even legal implications, and we have to be prepared for it.
So I want to talk to you today about the future of our species, and really the future of life. We are probably one of the last generations of Homo sapiens. Within a century or two, Earth will be dominated by entities that are more different from us than we are different from Neanderthals or from chimpanzees. Because in the coming generations, we will learn how to engineer bodies and brains and minds. These will be the main products of the economy, of the 21st century economy. Not textiles and vehicles and weapons, but bodies and brains and minds. Now, how exactly will the future masters of the planet look like? This will be decided by the people who own the data. Those who control the data control the future, not just of humanity, but the future of life itself. Because today, data is the most important asset in the world. Now, why is data so important? It's important because we've reached the point when we can hack not just computers, we can hack human beings and other organisms. There is a lot of talk these days about hacking computers and email accounts and bank accounts and mobile phones, but actually we are gaining the ability to hack human beings.
They are just, pretty much implementing whatever they come up with. To what end and what their goal is, to me it seems quite obvious. It is to ultimately erect a one world government.
What are your views on the World Economic Forum?
Well, I'm not a young global leader of tomorrow. I've never been to one of their events, and I look at Pierre Poilievre saying that he doesn't intend to go to their events and doesn't intend to have his ministers involved in them either. And I take the same view.
But why? You're still not explaining what your views are on the World Economic Forum. Like, what do you find distasteful about it?
I guess I find it distasteful when billionaires brag about how much control they have over political leaders, as the head of that organization has. And I think that that is offensive. The people who should be directing government are the people who vote for them. And the people who vote for me and for my colleagues are people who live in Alberta and who are affected by our decisions. And so, quite frankly, until that organization stops bragging about how much control they have over political leaders, I have no interest in being involved with them. My focus is here in Alberta, solving problems for Albertans with the mandate from Albertans.
And yet what's even worse is he said out of this crushing empire would come a fifth empire, that it would be different from any other kingdom. In fact, the Hebrew word, the shana here, means to change something for the worse. I mean, it will devour the whole world, the whole earth, trampling down and crushing it. So that he's saying that it's out of the soil of this Roman Empire would come something else, a different kind of kingdom that he doesn't name, but he does describe it. As he said again in chapter 2, that it would be partly strong and partly brittle. In other words, it would possess as cunning and brutal a ability as the ancient Roman Empire did, but it would be built upon a single national identity, would not be built upon a single national identity, but it would be something that was relatively unheard of in the world of that day, a confederation, a group of dominions or nations, that they would form something that had not been seen before, almost like a political cooperative. But secondly, he went on to say it would not have one leader, but it would be led by 10 leaders. In chapter 7, verse 24 of Daniel says the 10 horns are 10 kings who will come from this kingdom. And it's interesting, though, the word kingdom. See, we see kingdom and we think about kings and we think about Charles and Diana and Camilla and all that kind of stuff. But the Hebrew word is malku, is basically a dominion. It can be a realm, a region. It isn't something that necessarily would fit into the idea of knights in shining armor charging dragons. This is just simply a gathering of a nation of people or group of people or tribes of people. And then in chapter 17 of Revelation, we find that John adds to it. He says, these kings have not yet received a kingdom. So they're not hereditary kings. They're rulers who don't come from any kind of noble background, but they will only reign for 1 hour. For 1 hour, they will receive authority, absolute authorities like kings, along with the beast.
Biological knowledge multiplied by computing power, multiplied by data, equals the ability to hack humans.
The human race is at a critical point.
Al final, de lo que se trata es de organizar una gran entidad o varias entidades supranacionales que sean las que dicten el nuevo orden de cosas, el nuevo orden mundial.
Have no doubt. You are living the most important moments of your life. Because you're going to be the protagonists of the most important moments in the history of humanity.
This is where we hold them. This is where we fight. And these shield boys.
The moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.